Joseph Moran is the creator and host of The Trophy Room, a PlayStation podcast, one of the most successful PlayStation podcasts on the market today. Having began his content creation journey as head of Poly Games and later Bad Bit Games, Joseph has found himself settled in as the curator of a community that identifies itself as the place to celebrate PlayStation made by the players for the players. And he's established himself as quite the voice in this space, having worked with industry staples such as Greg Miller and even being featured on IGN's podcast Beyond. I was introduced to Joe by our late mutual friend Bobby Pauls, the Nintendo guru. I've collaborated with Joe many times over the years, designing his logos, composing the theme to the Trophy Room, and he's joined us several times over on the Megadad's side as well. It was great being able to sit down and chat with Joseph once again and to catch up on where he is, where he's going, and the importance of finding that the best place to be is exactly where you are. So please welcome into the spotlight, Joseph Moran of the Trophy Room. I think that a lot of people like you and I, we start doing this thing. We've got grand ideas. We're looking at all of our favorite friends and associates doing big things and getting bigger and bigger, and we have a chart. You know, there's a pin in the map of where we're going, and I can't speak for you, but for me, like, that has radically changed in the last 2 years. If you would have asked me 2 years ago where I was headed, the answer would be very different from what it is right now. So what is your evaluation of where you are and where you're going?
I think if you asked me 3 months ago, it was a wildly different answer as well.
Yeah.
I think 2 years ago, I was like, I'm going to make this thing, and I'm going to put it on a resume. That was like the long-term goal. It's like, I'm going to show people that I know how to create this thing, that I could be a good producer, all that stuff, a good social media person, and I'm going to put that on a resume. So mission accomplished there, because Trophy Room is on my resume, but I feel like a lot of people, they're like, hey, we're making this thing, and then they make the thing, then they get something cool, and then they leave the thing. And I don't have the strength to leave the thing. So I can't ever leave the Trophy Room unless I die.
don't say that.
Unless I get hit by a truck, Adam. That is what it is. And the goal was to work in the industry, and I got to do that for a split second, and I really didn't like it much. And what happened there was work became home and home became work. And not to say the mystery was revealed and it sucked. It's it's only business at the end of the day, but it was impacting how I felt about games. And so when I left there, I kind of had these 2 weeks of okay, so what's my next move? And I have the job now that I'm doing as a way of to stop and think about what I actually want. And to me now, the end game is, I love the Trophy Room so much, of the community that we've made. This is the goal. The Trophy Room being a full-time thing, that is the goal. I don't know when I'm gonna hit it. I don't know if I'm gonna hit it, but the Trophy Room is from passion project to, I want to make this thing my job.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah. I think back to, we started 8 years ago, and when we did, I was in college, because I didn't go to college till much later, which thank God I ended up doing it, because it opened so many doorways to me. But I remember when we were starting, and I had an instructor who he was a gamer, he's a dad, he's an artist, he's a version of me or whatever, but he was a teacher. And I was explaining to him what we were doing. And he said to me, he's like, use this as a means to get all of the things that you can do out into the world. So the art and the music and editing and all this shit that I knew how to do. And he's like, use it as a springboard. And that was always my goal for, I do so many different versions of me in here, whether it's the comics or the videos or illustrations. And I've done a lot of freelance work because of Megadads. And it was always like, this is getting me up that hill. And now I feel like I'm on the hill, and it's like, this year it's kind of been like, well, am I satisfied to be on this hill? Have I done everything that I want to do? Like, what's next? And for the last 8 years, I've never really had to think about what's next because I was just working towards a thing that I kind of feel like I'm here, kind of like you've realized that this is, you've worked on it so much that instead of using it as a tool to facilitate something else, this is the thing that you've ended up that's now the finish line.
Yeah. How do you deal with no one understanding? No one here in my family, even my friends,
right,
understand it. They're like, well, this is dumb. What are you doing? I hope you have the most supportive wife in the world.
I do. I do.
She got it?
Yes. She gets it. But I don't think she understands like how deep into it I am and like how much it actually means to me. When I come down to work or when I'm upstairs working on stuff or whatever, she knows that's important. But I think it's hard to communicate when you make something that you're really satisfied with, just how great it is, not only that you achieved it and you learned something, but then to see other people enjoying it. And I think for like a non-creative person, that's almost an impossible feeling to communicate. But like, there's nothing cooler than when, and almost everything that I have done, I kind of look back and measure it against how Bobby would react. And that guy, and I want to talk about him, but everything that I ever did for Bobby, his reaction was, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. It doesn't matter what it was. And it didn't matter, any of it. It was always like, holy fuck, man. Holy shit. This is amazing. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. And he was so passionate about everything. And so like anytime I make something now, I kind of like stack people's reactions to it versus like what I remember his reactions. And I still have them saved on my phone because they would always make me laugh every time he'd react. It's like he saw the face of God.
Yeah, I remember when he showed me the Breaking Bells stuff. Every single thing. He's like, man, Adam is like so freaking good. Look at this. And he just showed me all the things. I'm like, yeah, man, you're putting Adam's kids through college.
Right?
This is nuts.
That was
out of work.
That was always the running joke. Let's talk about Bobby for a second, because you and I have a lot of connections. Like over the years, we've done things together. We have mutuals. But Bobby was the person who turned me on to you, and I can remember very clear. I can remember very specifically listening to one of his 8,000 podcasts, and him talking about you, and saying that you reminded him so much of himself when he was younger, and I think there's even now that he's gone or whatever, and your journey is progressing, and I see so many parallels between how he just made everything his own and went for it to what you're doing right now, and you've seen tremendous success in the last couple of years. And every time I see you doing something new, I make sure that I message you that I think Bobby would be proud, because that's the first thing I think of every time is, A, he would be so damn proud, and B, he would probably be so jealous and find some sort of way to flame you about it.
You really would. I miss that man so much. Love him dearly still. Every time we hit a milestone, I'm just getting a little choked up.
Yep.
I always go, I need to tell Bobby. And it just like hits me, he's gone. And it's like, God damn it. What hurts me so much is knowing that Bobby was on the cusp. Like he was right about to break into the stratosphere and have everybody realize how good he is at what he does. And, he was always able so well to just punch above his weight, get people on that you didn't think you could, and create this community that is just so damn good. It was wild. And like all those like little shows he did was really just testing what worked, what didn't, and then just constantly improving. And, I think he was getting to it with Breaking Bells and with his streaming that like, when he got COVID, because Bobby's bigger than life, we just thought he was going to beat it. And when he didn't, that was another just layer of depression of like, for me who had bad COVID, right. Of like, well, you get survivor's guilt because I'm as heavy, if not heavier than Bobby. So I'm like, why him, not me? But then going, I need to succeed for this guy. And really it is like pushing myself to not like be Bobby, but to just be as close to that work ethic as I possibly can. Because there was no other work ethic that I admired more than Bobby. So for me, he really taught me so much about creating stuff, what was important, what wasn't important. One of the things that I remember he said to me was like, just don't stop asking so much for advice from other people or from the audience. Just do what you think is going to be the thing you want. Because if you're making something for someone else and not yourself, that product isn't yours and you're not going to enjoy it. And I always kind of take that with me when I'm making the trophy room. Is just like, is this the show that I want? Or is this the show that I think someone else wants? And that's really what I now strive for. It's kind of like that Bobby excellence. I got to make this guy proud up there.
I think there is a lot that I see in what you do, and the same with what he did in what you just said. He would pivot and change directions so many times, but you could tell it wasn't because he was adapting to an algorithm or clicks or whatever. It was, now I've got a new idea that I want to do this, and now I want to do, like, he had that spark of intensity and interest, and you could see the joy and everything that he did. And I think one of the things that I respect so much about you is that you are very clear with what your intention and your message is in what you do. And you don't shy away from that for a potential opportunity or a wider audience. You know what the ethics are of your culture and your community, and you stick to it, and you don't back down, and you make statements on world events that you feel are very important. I really enjoy creators who are not afraid to be themselves in the midst of what they're doing, because I think there's a lot of people that just want to, play as close to level as possible so that they can not offend anybody or try to get as many people into their circle. And I think that's a terrible way to do it.
And the thing is, like, I applaud those people, because like those people, it's just like, man, how do you live with yourself? But like, how do you do it? Because that takes a whole lot of strength of holding back that I just can't do. So like,
right. When
it comes to like global events and one of our audience favorite episodes is our Black Lives Matter episode, where I was like, I can't really talk from any type of point of view. I could just only talk from my Hispanic perspective, and knowing that I have, Black cousins that were noticeably treated differently than I. We brought on our good friend, Emmett Watkins Jr. to share his perspective, the Black perspective, and Kyle just sitting back and learning and trying to be better and trying to, talk about his perspective as well. And that was really important. The one thing that I think that the one thing that I love to do is, like, if we're getting a big following, let's just say the growth is off the charts. It's like, okay, now, I always say this, it's like we separate the wheat from the chaff. When that big thing happens, we're going to talk about it. We always, at the same exact time when we talk about something that happens that affects us or affects games, I always want to give people the out of, like, hey guys, we're about to talk about something heavy, and I get it. For whatever reason, you don't want to hear it. Fair. Here's your out, so you don't get to yell at me that we talked about this thing. I'm even giving you the timestamp, because for me, I get it, man. Like, I listen to podcasts and I'm just like, I want to escape from the real world. I don't want to think about that Vladimir Putin today. And so, like, I get wanting to just press the skip. So giving those, people the out is important, but it's not like through an air of like, oh, we don't want to lose anybody. It's really just like, listen, I get it. It's a heavy topic. You may not be in the right state of mind to hear it right now, so Go for it. And to me, it's never like speaking through, this is what is right. It's really just talking about my feelings through it, because I think the most important thing for everybody is to know, or for anybody, is that you're not alone. I don't have the answers to all things. I don't know how to solve global warming. I thought about it yesterday. I'm like, why can't we just make a giant AC that points at the sun? I thought about it. I'm not a scientist, but I know that that's a problem. It's something that's affecting us all, and it's kind of scary. It's like, I'm not claiming to be the expert. I'm just claiming that I'm in this moment with you. And I think that's really, really important. And to get that perspective as well. When we talked about reproductive rights, I talked about my mother's perspective of saying, hey, listen, I can never abort, but I'm never going to put my view in front of someone else.
Right.
That's their choice. I made my choice. Why do I have to, force my choice upon you? Those moments are important, because then you really understand, or you really get the people that either get it or see your side. And that's equally important, because to make a long rant very short is, I've had a lot of people come up to me going, I'm a Republican and I really like your show, and I see your side. Like, I see actually what you're talking about. I've swayed people to my point of view by simply stating it, and by saying, you're not an evil person if you think something different. I'm also just trying to see your side. I've got a lot of people that way, because I think the number one thing that people want is just to be heard. And I heard this one thing of, people will find out that they're wrong, not when they think that thing, but when they actually say it out loud. So when you get people to think, then actually have that conversation, they're now able to actually change their opinion or their worldview or their perspective by just simply having the conversation. I feel like way too many people are like, here's the line in the sand. If you're not with me, you're against me. And that's the Sith logic. Even if I'm like dead set right, it's always, we need to have this conversation. So let's have it.
Talk a little bit about Kyle. I have found that the measure of how good the stuff that we make is really hinged on the quality of the people that you're doing it with.
Yeah.
And I know that you have a very special bond with your co-host. You guys refer to each other as best friends.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about him.
Kyle is legitimately the kindest person I've ever met in my entire life. He is the heart of the show. So anytime I would have been like one of those creators that like kind of held back and like, let's not say anything that's going to offend anybody. Kyle has taught me time and time again that the best move is to just speak from the heart, and speak how you feel. And if I'm the producer and the gut of the show, he is the soul and he is the heart of the show. And the one thing we talk about, like progress we've made, measuring Kyle's progress from like 2017 when I met him to now is night and day. He is a different man. He will say different, but like he is way more confident. He is way more resilient. Like to see him officiate our friend Mike and Kelsey's wedding, he just killed it. He's so much more confident than he lets on. And I really couldn't do this without him. I don't know what, I probably would have stopped the show a while ago if it wasn't for Kyle. Just amazing. And to see how he's leveled up in just the hosting or the co-hosting portions of the show is also night and day. Like before it was a lot of me talking. Now he'll like, I remember there was one episode I'm like, Kyle, I like to talk. Just cut me off. Just cut me off. Unless I go, no, I need to finish. You could just cut me off. And he's just like, are you sure? I'm like, yes. And I will never yell at you about it. And once he got that piece of advice in, now I wish I could shut him up. he now is just like so dang good. Cause to me, he is the heart. He is what like the positive player is thinking, and me, I am more of like I wonder how this happens, or the type of portion of the brain. And he is my best friend. From almost a perfect stranger in 2017, he is now one of 3 people that is on my like the Apple 8 or it's the 6, like right there. And that's how you can tell nowadays.
Does he challenge you?
We challenge each other constantly. And I don't know how he's like, Joe, go F yourself, and I'm here. Because we've had like really big heart-to-hearts. And things where I'm just like, Kyle, I think you got to correct this. Or he'll be like, Joe, I think you got to correct this. And every time we were making this, we're making this thing we're going to announce on Tuesday. And he was really like, Joe, I don't think this is realistic in some certain things. And he has the uncanny ability to have some of the greatest ideas just back to back. And I always am just like, God, why didn't I think about it like this? Or like, there are like some points that I think are just so great. And he's just like, no, actually this. And I'm like, damn, you're right. It's a lot of me going, you know what? I can't always be right. And though I do feel like I'm the producer of the show, it's always really important to give your partner that say as well. Even like going into it, I go, Kyle, we're not like 50-50 here. I am the creator, the founder, but I want to always make sure that your voice is heard and that you feel like this is a 50-50 split. So many of the ideas, from like the name to just simple things like Patreon bonus things, he's had such a remarkable influence on me. Honest to God, because we challenge each other so much is the reason why I think the show is so good.
I find myself in a strange position that I never saw coming, where I am like steering the ship, and I have a team that they all have different things that they're working on, and they all have different projects and things like that. But I'm finding myself having to like analyze the structure of how this works going forward, which is something that I've never had to think about before. And now I find myself podcasting with a new team and kind of delegating out work to people in a way that I didn't before. And it's scary. And like, also I feel like emboldened that I'm going to carry this forward and make this work into this new phase, but it's very clearly a new phase. What advice would you have for me about like what you were just talking about, how he is a key asset to you now as somebody who is used to doing things one way for a long time? What advice would you have to me about how I can empower my team to contribute and change the face of what we do going forward? Because I don't want it to be the same, you know, like I want to change. I want to refresh. I want to do something new, but also still honor what we have done and what we have built.
I'm so jealous that you have a team. You know, it's just me and Kyle here. It's a lot. Yeah. So I think the one thing that I had trouble with, and I kind of had to self-teach this to myself, or I self-taught to myself, is understanding everybody has a different bandwidth, right? Different length of time that they could spend on the project, and understanding their limitations. And like, you know, there are some things like some Patreon stuff that Kyle won't be a part of right now because he's busy and he has life outside the trophy room. He has other projects that he's working on, so it's unfair to him. And Kyle feels guilty because he's not in it as much as he wants to be, but he knows he's needed somewhere else. And so for me, it's just understanding that when I signed Kyle up, all Kyle had to do was sit here for an hour, agree with me on things, and then just give me the MP3 file when he's done. And I never had a contract going, sir, I demand this, and that. Everything he's done, it's through his own volition, and I have to respect that. So like there were some things that I would have loved Kyle to do, but he just can't. And I'm like, I gotta respect that. I gotta respect his time. I gotta respect that he's trying to be the best uncle and really father figure to those kids. I gotta understand that he has another project with 6-1 Indy that's going places that I'm so proud of. And I gotta also understand that he has, you know, the time with me. So everybody's different. Not everybody could go and put 100% of themselves in this one project. That's the one thing I would suggest, is just understand their limitations. And at the same exact time, you know, come to them for advice, for feedback. But at the end of the day, you take that feedback and not, you know, analyze it yourself and go, is this actually the right move, or am I just doing it to make them happy? Because at the end of the day, I need to do what makes me happy, what makes this thing work.
And we have done a lot of things. A lot of things have worked. A lot of things have fallen flat on their ass. And I always have this just gutting feeling when I put a project out and I promote it and we're going to do this. And then it's just like, this shit doesn't work. It doesn't work. Nobody is responding. I'm not enjoying it. And it's like, it's failure on the stage, right? Everybody sees that it didn't work. But there's valuable lessons in that. I'm curious what you think the importance of failing is.
Oh, man. Ask me this 4 days from now. Failing's important.
Let me spin it this way.
Yeah.
If this thing fails, how will that feel? And what will you do? And what will you do in reaction to that?
Kind of be depressed about it. So we're doing something called the Trophy Room Awards. You've been a part of it. You've done the artwork and stuff for it in the past. And what we wanted to do is, we are a PlayStation podcast made by the players for the players. We are creating an award show made by the fans for the fans. So we are literally trying to make a crowdfunded version of the Dice Awards, but in podcast form. Totally ad-free. Everything's just through Patreon. Everything's through people's generosity. And we can only go as far as people are willing to really donate. So, like, we want cool announcers. We're talking to some really cool guests. I gotta knock on wood. Like, all of it, all the appliances. We are trying to make something that is unlike anything I think the indie podcast scene has done. I'm taking huge influence of like things like the Spawnies. When I saw, when we did our show, I literally said to Kyle, I'm watching Khalif's show, not just because I love the man, because I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing here. So, there's no Shaquatro man. This is just literally, it's all up to you guys. And we're doing like a trophy room day akin to like, you, me, and Capri Day that Sean has that I admire greatly. And just trying to do something stupid huge that again has high risk for failure. But I think setting the realistic goal of, expectations. This first go is the foundation. Next year, we need to build upon that foundation. And the year after that, hopefully we have a full house by sometime soon. Failure's important because you need it to ground yourself of what you're capable in the moment of doing, what you need to get better at for the future. And really understanding the limitations that you have. I think that's what failure really brings. It does make you better. It's really shitty in the moment, but now you know where you need to improve and where you kind of go from here. Because you're right, there are some times where like I make a post, I'm like, this one's gonna kill what? It's like, it just falls on its face. But, the other thing that I do with the trophy room that's really different is just like, actually I was talking to Sean about it. Sean's like, I'm so jealous that you have this one show. And I'm like, that is it. Like, because if I try to do something else, I don't know, I think I'm gonna implode. So it's just focused. Sometimes the idea that you thought was good, you just gotta come to get, be a little honest with yourself, go, nah, it was bad. Because no one clicked or no one responded well. There are like episodes where I'm like, oh, this is a bad episode. I was really bad. And everybody loved it. So like, that's the thing. I think failure comes in all shapes and forms. Some of them hurt, like a job offer you didn't get and you feel like you're a failure. Well, that just means you need to improve, your resume a bit, touch it up so that maybe you get it. Or maybe you think about that interview a little bit differently and go, I should approach the next one this way. It sucks in the moment, but the more failure that you have, the more you're able to analyze what works and what doesn't. And you become a better creator in person because of it.
I think that's really well said.
Thanks.